Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, and with My Hero Academia and One Piece and just basically all of the manga series and manga I usually review on break because of Christmas, I was wondering what can I do, and I figured now is probably a good time as any in order to probably do something I've wanted to do for a while, just never had time to, which is basically go back and review all the arcs of Dragon Ball Super I never got the chance to. So with that said, we're starting off with Dragon Ball Super's Battle of Gods arc, which for me now because of the contents of the movie and and honestly because the contents of this arc is based on the movie, my conclusions would probably be pretty obvious, but not so much. But let's get into it. Starting off with pacing. And because, like I said, because the contents of the movie needed to be extended and expanded on to fill the amount of episodes given, I'd say this is one of those things where it works both for and against the pacing. In many respects, the earlier episodes of the arc do add a little more characterization and development, than definitely more so than the movie. I mean, you could definitely make the argument it's to the point where the characters don't even act like themselves or just are out of their element. Case in point, the Vegeta's Vacation episode. But I do like episodes like that because it does show that there is more to the characters than just being battle hungry. Now, having said that, the episodes are strictly for extending the fun. Now, having said that, the episodes that are used for extending the final fight definitely show signs that they work more against the pacing than for it by Dragon Ball standards. There were epic moments. Don't get me wrong. Like I did enjoy the final fight of Beerus versus Goku and the animation in that fight was definitely better than the animation in episode 5. But episode 5 never really set a good standard to begin with. But it did feel like it was like the pacing did kind of feel a little sluggish in that episode, I guess you could say. But it's I don't know. It's one of those weird things where I guess the pacing overall I guess what I'm saying with the pacing overall is that it wasn't bad compared to what I originally thought, but compared to when I first watched it, but it isn't the greatest either, I guess you could say. Now, art and animation. And before I go any further, I I need everyone to know that this portion I'll be talking more about the English dub version of the show. So the focus for this part of the art through the art and animation part of this review will be whether or not the updates that were made for basically all the DVD releases even made a even made an even actually made that, like, whether or not those changes mattered or whether or not they made an impact on me. And I guess my overall opinion on the changes that were made for basically the DVD releases is kinda. I mean, okay, maybe that's a little broad, but what I'm saying is the changes that were made to the art and animation affected me. The changes that were made to the art animation actually affected me very little because by this point I kind of just adapted and accepted what happened, and if there would be changes made, I'd be fine with it. If it happens, I'd be fine with it if it happens, but it wouldn't have affected me any less if it didn't happen. Like I will give it this: the Toei Animation did definitely do a good job at going back and fixing whatever it is that needed fixing. They definitely did good at that, but because they had already made because they had already made a lot of other mistakes that couldn't be fixed, it's just kind of one of those things where you just kind of accept it for what it is. You can really only change so much. So I guess overall it's acceptable, I guess you could say. I, I guess bottom line is I think it's one of those things where you just kind of grow content, and for what we got, it definitely was an improvement. But like I said, I guess by the time the release, I just didn't care, and I think a lot of my indifference towards the art and animations just stems from the fact that as far as where we are in Dragon Ball Super itself in the show in the Japanese sub version, we're at a point now where while the show still suffers from slight issues here and there, the art and animation has already improved greatly. So it's one of those things where is there really even a need to dwell on the past? It just kind of seems counterproductive at that point. So yeah. Now moving on to the last point, story. And you're probably all thinking, why am I talking about the story when the arc itself is basically the plot of a movie? And while that is true, I think it's also fair to. I think it's. I think it's also fair to say there are certain moments in this adaptation that are kind of worth talking about, whether good or bad, honestly. Uh, First off, I do like how the anime does actually and show and set up Beerus a little better as the god of destruction by showing him actually use his powers on several planets and planets before actually coming to Earth. So when he finally arrives, there the threat and presence of Beerus' power to destroy does come across as a little more genuine and also at times unnerving, even in the moments that are supposed to be funny in the show. Like you can at the moments where Beerus is in a comedic situation, you can it is funny. Don't get me wrong, but then you also kind of clicks in your head that, oh yeah, he's the god of destruction. Is this gonna set him off? So yeah, it's one of those things where in a way I do like how Beerus kind of got a little more spotlight in the beginning for sure. I think that's the one thing that about this readaptation I definitely enjoy. Uh, Second, let's talk about the first fight with Goku has with Beerus, and again, well, going back to the art and animation standpoint, while it is considered the bane of every Dragon Ball fan's existence, one element I did like was that Goku actually does showcase all three of his Super Saiyan forms in that fight. And while part of it is Goku's natural Saiyan instinct to test his foe before going all out, this version also shows that, yeah, this foe is definitely powerful enough to actually force Goku to go into his Saiyan transformation, into his best Saiyan transformation at the time, and yet still lose. Like I guess it was one of those things where I felt with each form of his Super Saiyan power that Goku went into in this fight. It felt like he was almost getting closer and closer to defeat, almost. So, yeah, it did. It almost felt like yeah. So I do enjoy how it did kind of. It almost kind of was building up to Goku's defeat with pretty much with him going into each different form of his Super Saiyan power. So yeah, and in a way, as weird as it sounds, I think this fight also gives us a hint that Goku can, in fact, go beyond his limits even more. So, which eventually does lead to the future, of course. Um, and one final thing that I really like with this adaptation was the added elements to Vegeta's flashback and backstory of seeing his father beg and grovel before Beerus. And well, I will agree that there was more mystique to Beerus in the movie form of the flashback, because I think there was very little talking in that one. I think the anime's version. I think I like the anime's version strictly for the purpose of characterization and showing that, yeah, Beerus will get angry over the tiniest, minuscule thing, showing, I guess, comedic, but also a very dark side of the character in that basically, if you cross him, he won't be afraid to teach you to respect him, and that you're basically fucked if you basically insult him or just refuse to do something that he wants done. So yeah, I think that flashback almost showed how just again just the danger of Beerus, honestly. So yeah. Um As for the rest of the story, for the most part, it's the same. However, I will say there are three moments or choices made in this adaptation that even now I still think are a little iffy to me. The first and most major one is the change in location. In the movie, it was at Capsule Corp, which, and of course, Capsule Corp. Well, in the anime, it was like the location of basically of the whole premise of the arc in the movie. That they happen in different locations. In the movie, it was on Capsule Corp. In the anime, it was on Bulma's personal yacht, a cruise liner. And it's one of those things where I understand the reason for the change. I do, but that doesn't mean I had to like it. Because the one thing I did notice out of this change is that I'm sure there's more to it than just the location change. But one thing I did find from them being on that cruise liner is that it actually restricted the moments of the movements of the characters and didn't allow their bodies to be as expressive whenever they're fighting. I mean, like I said, I know the change in location isn't the only thing, but I think it is fair to say that the change in location definitely probably did play a bit of a part in this for sure. And yeah, it just didn't feel like they were being as expressive as they could have been in in the fights. That all the Z fighters couldn't be as expressive when they were fighting almost. So yeah. Um, and the same especially went for the final fight in this arc. Again, there are some cool techniques showcased that we didn't get to see in the movie, but I did have trouble getting invested in the conflict overall because until pretty much around the point where where they finally got into space, it did feel like the fighting was pretty basic. Whereas with the movie, from what I remember, Beerus and Goku were just pretty much going all over the place. They were going up, down, left, right. They were just everywhere. But yeah, with the anime, they did kind of just stay in one location. So yeah, I guess there is that. Um, the second problem I had is no. I guess it's one of those things that has launched many. The second problem I have, which it's launched many different theories, of course, but I don't think it's really all that much. I don't think it's much of a stranger to ridicule either, which is in the anime, Videl, which is Videl going Super Saiyan during the God Ritual. Now, like I said, I will be fair and say that, like I said, that there have been many theories about Videl going Super Saiyan, about how this could possibly, about how Videl going Super Saiyan possibly opens up the possibility of rewriting the GT version of Pan. And I'll just be honest with you, like, I did like. I'll be honest with you guys. I did like Pan in the beginning when I first, in the glory days of me watching Dragon Ball Super, or Dragon Ball GT. But as I got older, I did start to notice the problems with Pan. And like I said, it's not much, but if that was a hint, if Videl going Super Saiyan was a hint by Akira Toriyama and Toei that they do plan to rewrite Pan, then I'm all for it. But until then, like just aesthetically speaking, the look of itself of Videl going Super Saiyan was just downright strange and dare I say a little corny even to the point where I actually kind of busted out laughing a bit at seeing her kind of go Super Saiyan almost. Like, I mean, I guess when you get down to it, like I said, it could lead to possibilities in the future. So it could be a nitpick, but for me, it is still because we haven't really gotten anything on it. It is still worth mentioning, honestly. and the third and I guess final problem I have is Goku's reversion back to regular Super Saiyan after his God form wears down. Compared to the movie, he reverts to base form, and to me, I think the movie had it a little more correct in the way they handle that whole situation with this one because even though the concept of power gauging is for the most part non-existent in Super, I still think it would make more sense for Goku to revert back to base form rather than regular old Super Saiyan because it was his first it was his first time using that power, and B, because it was his first time using that power, it would easily eat away a lot more of his stamina and a lot more of his ki, or just a lot more of his energy. So because of that, like the problem, him just going Super Saiyan, it did feel a little. Him reverting back to regular Super Saiyan did feel off in the sense where, wait, if this is a god form, then why didn't it eat up all of his energy and power? Like I said, probably no nitpick, but yeah, it is still definitely a problem for me on an aesthetic and logical sense, I suppose. Um, so to conclude, what do I think of the Battle Gods arc? In Dragon Ball Super, honestly, it's okay. There's enough good ideas enough ideas to keep me invested. I get, even though this review has been very back and forth, I will say that there was enough ideas in there to keep me invested to watch it, but also enough problems to say it wasn't perfect either. I will say I did get much more enjoyment out of it now than I did before, but then again, this is basically from letting all the all the bad rap kind of finding dying down and whatnot, and just saying, okay, yeah, you know what? Now that not all the bad press behind it's kind of died down, it's not as bad. It's not perfect, but it does have its moments too. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I have for this review of the Battle of Gods arc of Dragon Ball Super. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And tell me what you think of the Battle of Gods arc, guys. Do you have the same thoughts as I do? Is it better or is it worse for you? This the second or third time, or how many other times you've watched it up to this point? What are your thoughts on the Battle of Gods arc up to this point? But yeah, just leave them in the comments down below, and see you later, guys. Death Knight of Enemy, signing off. Later, guys.